Okay, well, hello everyone. Hey, this is Dan King from Fist Bump Media, and I'm excited today to continue our new webinar series. Today, our big webinar focusing on some of our writer blogger strategy, and this is a really cool one because for me personally, because if you know me and you've been around at all stuff with any of the Fist Bump Media stuff too, you know that I'm very driven by the data, right? I'm not a big fan of like just gut feeling, kind of, do whatever kind of seems kind of cool or right or whatever too. Really, I feel like the data always kind of tells us exactly what we need to be doing to improve our web strategy, really any part of our digital marketing strategy or anything like that too, whether you're building a business, growing a blog, writing a book, any of this stuff, right? So this is a cool one today for me, and it's all about how to use a website audit to improve your blog. Okay, so I'm going to dig into a few things related to this. We're going to look at some of the data and stuff too. And I have an actual website audit that we'll kind of poke through. I'm going to show you some of the elements in there that we use when we do a website audit, particularly geared towards the blogs. And I'll show you some of the things, but we're going to really specifically not only just kind of look at what some of the data says, but I want to help you understand how you can use this data to really improve your blog. So first, before we dig into that, the first big thing that I have is why should bloggers focus on SEO, right, or search engine optimization? And really, this is a big thing. I get this question a lot. Really, hey, is my blog set up good for SEO? But I think a lot of people don't really fully understand exactly what that means or what it looks like or how it works or any of that, right? They just know that being a blog and being able to be found on search engines is important, right? And SEO is not necessarily something to, and I really want to kind of define this a little bit too. Yeah, SEO is not something that is just like you just do to your blog and then boom, it's, you're perfect, right? Just like the social media space, the search engine space is very dynamic. It's changing a lot. The big search engines like Google obviously owns really most of the market there. They're really constantly changing the algorithms to really try to serve up the best answers that they can. And if you think about it from Google's perspective, what they're doing is they're trying to provide the best answers to questions that they can when people come to them to ask questions and try to find answers to problems or ideas or anything, right? So they're really just trying to provide the best answers that they can. So really, when they're changing their algorithms, they're trying to get around any of the shady tactics and things like that that people do to try to game the system to try to make their pages rank much higher. Okay. Now there are things that you can do, and we're going to see a lot of that stuff here too. But really, when we kind of dig into this idea of why should bloggers really focus on SEO, most of the bloggers I know focus a lot more on social media as a way to deliver their content and get the word out to people. And then maybe they're building an email list, as a way to continue to connect with the same people who have kind of engaged and said, yes, I like your writing. I want to get more of it, right? So email is a great way to kind of maintain that relationship over the long term. But search engines has always been kind of a mystery for the bloggers and stuff. But this is really important, right? I'm going to show you why here. Let's take a look at some data. So Orbit Media published a big study, and it dug into some things about blogging and how bloggers are getting traffic and the things that they're doing and stuff, right? And this is a really interesting chart, and I like this one because it shows some of the trends, but you can see that really social media for how bloggers are driving traffic to their blog post is really nearly 100%. So just about everybody out there who has a blog is using social media to drive traffic to their blog post. SEO is second, right? With right now over 2/3 of bloggers out there are starting to focus more on SEO, and you can see that that's a trend that's increasing. That really just a few years ago it was only half. Now it's about 2/3, and I expect to see that trend continue to rise, right? Email marketing, another big one there too, right? And then notice too, there's a big dip off there, and it gets down to 20% right now are using influencer outreach, 19%, so right about 20% again too, using paid services, so using things like Facebook or Google ads and things like that to drive traffic to their blog posts. So smaller percentages, but really I want to kind of take a look at this. The SEO is really an increasing trend and becoming something that more and more bloggers are really starting to take a look at. Okay, now remember what we just looked at this one, how much people use the social media, right, to drive traffic compared to SEO. But look at this, bloggers who report strong results based on the type of promotion. Okay, yeah, and I'm going to hit on this, the big, the strong results for influencer and paid services over there for a second as well too. But as many people who do social media, only 26% are showing the strong results, when really the biggest, when you look at the social media, SEO, and email marketing, really the big three there that I like to focus on, it's the greatest percentage there is of bloggers is reporting that SEO is showing strong results when you're focusing on that kind of promotion stuff too. So really, I think that trend kind of shows that how much more likely you are to really see strong results, not just results, but strong results when you start to focus on SEO and start to do SEO right for your blog. Now, influencer outreach, paid services and stuff, I've got some big feelings on those things too. Influencer outreach, I'd rather focus more on, how do we help you become an influencer rather than chasing influencers. Some great books out there about that and stuff too that really kind of shift your mindset about that. And paid services, paid ads, not so interested in that. I think from a business perspective, paid advertising really does have a good, strong place in a digital strategy, but really only kind of fill in for the gaps and stuff where the organic stuff, the stuff that happens naturally through social media and search engine optimization like that, does not pick up yet, right? So as you build a stronger, SEO kind of foundation for your blog, for your site, then, kind of lean off of paid services stuff too. But it's not even something I really even see as a big deal for bloggers. I see it more really for businesses that are really trying to draw a certain type of customer into their thing. So it's really great information here too. But it's interesting. I definitely thought it was interesting that so many more people focus on social media, but fewer of them are really seeing results from social media. More are seeing strong results coming from search engine optimization, right? So consider that for a minute. Great information from Orbit Media. Now here's another one too, coming from Growth Badger. And the question there is, how important are these factors for making a blog successful? Now, one of the things that they that they looked at here too, and the difference between the orange line and the gray line is the orange line represents bloggers earning over $50,000 a year. And then the gray line is what they refer then to lower income bloggers. Okay, so when you look at even monetizing your sites and the things that are helping make you more successful for for the higher income earning bloggers, right? The ones that really monetize, this is actually a very telling kind of thing too, right? And it may be a little bit hard to read, maybe a little bit small, but take a look at this. The SEO, right? You got quality of content is a big thing, eye-catching headlines. Really quality of content being a big thing, really for both audiences there, for everybody. Eye-catching headlines. The bloggers earning over $50,000 a year. Definitely see a great importance in that too. But the first thing here, right after your content itself, is SEO. And look at the gap here, right? The gap between the higher earning. I mean, really, after the content, SEO is the next biggest thing as far as what high earning bloggers understand as being one of the things that makes their blog the most successful, right? So you see a stronger focus there from people who are already earning a great deal of money from their blog, and really a small focus from the lower income bloggers. So one of the things this shows me too is that if you want to be a higher income earning blogger, then we need to kind of take a look at what are the things that they're focusing on, right? And then at the same time, right? Let's jump down here to social media shares and followers, right? Where you see the gray line, the lower income bloggers are focusing a lot more on social media, and there's a lot less focus. Now, down near the bottom of the chart here, social media for the higher income earning bloggers. Not that they don't care, but they don't see it as a big a success factor as something like search engine optimization, right? So really fascinating look at that there too. Here's kind of a follow-up to that. How important are these marketing channels for you, right? And again, you see the big trend, the higher income earning bloggers looking at Google. Unpaid organic search is really the top channel, the top marketing channel for their blog. Whereas you see, again, way down low, much less important for the lower income earning bloggers. Then you have email, again, email being a big thing to really kind of continue and maintain that connection. So once you drive them to your site, capturing that email is a big thing, and we talk a lot about that. And not so much today, but again, email big factors, kind of following up that driving of the traffic initially, really looking at search engine optimization, and then things like Facebook, right? Taking a big dip down, right? Still important, right? That's where people are at. But then you see lower income bloggers see that as really the highest level of importance, right? So one of the big differences between lower income bloggers and higher income bloggers is lower income bloggers will tend to say Facebook is my most important channel, whereas it's not nearly as high, but Google is the most important channel for me as a higher income blogger and stuff, right? And then see, even look at this, influencers dropping down, but a lot of great things on here and stuff too, but a lot of, Twitter down there, but now you start to see things like Facebook ads and, influencers, look at advertising as a little bit bigger deal and stuff too. And also just kind of point out too, Google ads was like a 1.1, influencer, in general is 0.6, right? So it's almost off the chart as being an important channel for bloggers, really across the board. When I said influencer earlier, I meant Instagram there. And there's influencer outreach too, but so and that's unpaid organic. So if you know people that can retweet you, things like that, whatever, that's the deal. So influencer really down off the charts, paid advertising down off the charts and stuff too. But you see the data is really showing that if you want to be successful, that Google search engine optimization is a big deal for how you're growing your platform there and stuff. So really important. Okay, so from that, really, we see why this stuff is so important, right? So now I want to kind of move to this idea of, if focusing on search is so important, how do I make sure that I'm doing the right things with my site to make sure that I'm set up right for search engine optimization, that I'm set up right for Google to be able to find my content and to index it well, and to see my content as something that's valuable to people who are asking those questions over on Google, right? Because I want to be that answer. I want to be that number one answer. I want to be that featured snippet, and some of these are a little bit deeper concepts that we can get into, but really, I want to kind of get at the core of how do you set yourself up right? And what I like to do a lot of times is I like to start off of an SEO audit. Let's do a search engine optimization audit on your blog, right? And when I look at what should a good SEO audit cover, there's a few things really, right? The first thing is that it should cover, some organic traffic overview, right? What does the traffic right now look like? What are the trends like? What kinds of stuff do we see? And I even like to look at things And this is really important too. And some of it maybe get a little bit technical and stuff too, but it's really interesting to see some of these trends, because when you see bumps and rises in traffic or dips in traffic and stuff, sometimes you can look at when does that stuff happen compared to like Google algorithm updates and stuff. So we'll see that maybe they released a big update that impacts how certain things are done, and then people see a big dip in traffic. That means maybe there's something there that you need to work on your site to improve it, to kind of make up for the algorithm. It's not necessarily gaming the system, but you got to remember Google's doing this stuff to help them try to find the best answers. So if you're not positioned well for that, that's why this kind of organic traffic overview is really important. And line that up when those updates happen, so you can see how updates may indicate what exactly needs to be done. So really kind of interesting information too. But that's one of the things I look for in an audit, is just what does the overall traffic look like, the organic traffic coming from search, and how does that relate to the kinds of things that Google is doing. Second, I like to see a keyword analysis. A keyword analysis is really important, and really initially just to look at what are the terms that your site is currently ranking for. And we're going to take a look at some of these too, but this is a big deal because we want to really kind of evaluate, are you ranking for the terms that you want to be ranking for? Maybe you're ranking really high for some terms that you're not even really expecting. And then we're actually going to see this in the sample audit that we're going to take a look at. But it's important to kind of do an analysis on the keywords you're currently ranking for, where you're positioned within that stuff too, because that's going to help us reveal some opportunities and help us kind of focus on a strategy for if we want to see some changes there. What does that look like, and how do we get there, right? Third is competitor analysis, and competitor analysis, really, I think from an overall SEO perspective, focuses a lot on maybe a business and how a business performs online and who their competitors are. And in blogging, it may not necessarily be a competitor, right? But your site, Google's going to look at it and say, oh, well, you're kind of known for these kinds of topics and stuff right now too, right? So what are some other sites that are similar to that, right? So Google, you kind of are competitors because you're competing for the higher ranking for those kinds of terms and stuff, right? So I like to take a look at competitor analysis. Who does the data kind of pull up and say, this is who you're like, and these are the terms that they're ranking for, and maybe though there's some differences between they're ranking for some terms that you're not, that you want to be ranking for and stuff, so competitor analysis is important because it kind of gives you a good framework of how the search engines view you, and where some other opportunities might lie. So I like to see that covered in a good SEO audit as well too. Fourth is a backlink analysis, right? With businesses, we do a lot of work to even try to build backlinks and get links from local directories like Yelp and other online directories and things like that stuff too. But really, backlink analysis, this is something that's really interesting and is kind of just really a little bit more organic with blogging and stuff too, because if you know somebody else who wrote a blog post on a similar topic and you want to link back to their website and stuff too, these are the kinds of backlinks that can give the search engines some of the kind of juice to understand. It's like, oh yes, this is really important, right? But backlinks back to you are a big deal, because the more backlinks that you have, say if you wrote a really great blog post about on a book review about a certain book, for example, right? And you get a lot of sites linking back to that, then you have an opportunity to kind of rise up. Then Google's going to look at that and say, oh, look at all the sites that are linking back to this, one page on the website and stuff. That must be really authoritative, so they'll kind of boost up. So backlinks are really important. We'll talk a little bit about that and what we see in the analysis, because they do get kind of tricky, and there's some kind of rules and stuff like that that you'll want to try to follow to really make this look good and natural and stuff to the search engines. And then the last thing here too, and definitely last but not least here, but by any means, is an on-site technical audit, right? I like to do a site audit that's going to scan the site and say, you've got some technical issues here too, without getting too technical on you. There might be JavaScript and CSS issues and stuff like that too. And a lot of these things are really easy to take care of, but the site audit will help kind of reveal where problems are on your site, where you have opportunities to improve the technical strength of your website so that it runs really well. I know that a lot of the data shows that sometimes even increasing or improving the page load speed of your website by 1 second, right, may triple the amount of traffic that you have on your website, right? So it's really important to make sure that it's on a strong technical foundation. Some of these things rely on your hosting. That's one of the reasons why we specialize in WordPress hosting and stuff, and so we try to do a lot to make sure that the servers themselves are really well optimized for sites and stuff too. But there's a lot of stuff that you'll do in your own site to really make sure that it's strong as well too. And we're going to cover some of that stuff and take a look at a few things here as well too. But we'll see that in the audit. But these are 5 things that I really look for in a good, strong SEO website audit, particularly for a blog. This will give you a good range and coverage to help you kind of identify your strategy to move forward and what you need to do to improve your chances there. So with that, let me jump over into an audit. Okay, and this is one too, and this is actually a real audit. Printed out here myself too, and you can see there's the camera. Printed out. This is for my personal blog for Bible Dude. And full disclosure here too is I have not been very faithful with my personal blog for quite some time now. It's kind of neglected. But it's something that's stirring in me a little bit more too. I want to get back. I want to do more writing. I want to do more writing on the blog. I've got more books in me that I want to get published and everything too. So I'm really trying to start to focus on a little bit more. It's one of the reasons I wanted to do this and do this on my blog, so that I know the things that I need to do to try to improve too. But the blog SEO audit that we're looking at on the screen, you can see I printed out 22 pages in this audit that came out for my personal blog. So a lot of information there to really kind of dig into. But we're gonna take a look at some highlights here. This is the first thing I talked about, that kind of traffic. That traffic summary, right? Taking a look at things, and you can see over the last 2 years, you can see how traffic has been going. And even though I haven't been doing a lot, you see it was there a little bit, dipped down some, kind of creeped back up a little bit, but kind of plateaued for quite some time too. And it's actually started to increase. You see a nice little slide up there from the plateau for organic. And this is search engine only traffic. So this is not looking at traffic coming from social media or referrals from other websites or anything. This is only coming from search engines and stuff too. And the orange line is the paid. We're not doing any paid advertising, so that's flat. Most of you guys probably are not either, so that'll be flat. But look at that organic, regular search engine traffic and see what the trends are. Now these numbers here underneath too in the black are when algorithm updates have happened, right? So we can look back over time and say, hey, right around here, you start to see the plateau break and things start to go up, right? So algorithm updates are not necessarily a bad thing, because I know I haven't done anything really from a content perspective to try to drive that over this period of time. But algorithm updates have kind of cleaned up and said, what Dan is doing on his Bible Dude blog is actually fitting with what we want to try to pursue. So there's an explanation here too of some of the updates and stuff too, so that you can see what Google is doing, and you can kind of even correlate that stuff to some of the stuff that's going on. The Google does de-indexing issues and certain core algorithm updates. There's an indexing bug that they fixed and stuff, right? Those kinds of things. Those are all happening right around the time where we start to see that kind of uptick in trends there, right? In the same time, if you see a downtrend, right, you can look at the algorithm updates and say, ooh, look, there's a little downtrend there. what happened there? Maybe I got hit and there's something that I need to fix, right? So this will actually tell you a little bit about what's happened with the search engines that might give you some clue. Sometimes they're going to be a little technical. Sometimes they're going to give you a go, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I need to fix something on my site, to help me kind of better optimize for that, right? So that's the first thing. And I want to kind of point that out to you. And just a summary, you see that traffic flow. So, so pretty cool piece there. All right. So moving down from there, got a few algorithm updates there. Let's take a look at organic search traffic, right? And this is pretty cool because this is one thing that looks out over all of the traffic I have on the site right now. And it says right now, my blog is ranking for 805 total keyword terms. Okay. And that's, what should it be? Really, I think the more I can get there, the better, but there's not necessarily a certain number. It's not like if you just started out blogging and you're only ranking for 50 keyword terms, I think the big thing is here is try to beat yourself, right? Not necessarily benchmark against somebody else and say, well, okay, I didn't have as many keywords as Dan did on his blog, so I got some work to do, or I got a lot more, so now I can rest and take it easy. Really just, this number, I think over time, we like to see that trend, a certain direction, right? We'd like to see that go up because we like to know that we're actually getting more of our stuff out there in front of the terms. You also see this is a traffic estimate, really, and that's not based on a real number. It's not pulling from your Google Analytics or anything like that, but that's kind of a traffic estimate based on knowing how many keyword terms that we see that you're probably searching for. And this is in the top 100, right? So it's in the first 10 pages of Google. So it's not even like this is all stuff that I'm on page 1 for. This is in the top 10 pages of Google, right? And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit deeper in a second. But based on that and how much traffic, if you have terms ranking number 1, 2, 3, you're going to get a lot of traffic. You're off on page 9. You're going to get very little traffic and stuff too. But based on the keywords and where you're positioned and stuff too, this is kind of a traffic estimate. And we want to kind of see that start to trend up as well too, right? In any given month. And this year, the traffic cost is basically it's the estimated price of your organic keywords in Google if you were paying for ads to get the same amount of traffic, right? So this is how much that would cost you and stuff too. It's kind of an interesting number to do, to know and see and watch what happens with and stuff too, but it's not necessarily something that's going to drive a lot of your strategy. But take a look at this, right? Because this is really interesting, right? So this is from my personal blog, BibleDude.life, where I write about about the Bible and theology. I write about activism, like missions work and outreach and things like that. I write about prayer, all that kind of stuff. And you see, I'm showing 805 top keywords there. And the top 5 keywords that are showing up here are Crystal Blue Persuasion. You have Crystal Blue Persuasion Meeting, Crystal Blue Persuasion Lyrics. 3 of the top 5 are really, and I can tell you that's all related to one single blog post that I had a guest blogger writing on my blog, wrote on that topic and stuff about Crystal Blue Persuasion. And that is apparently is ranking really strong because, among all the keywords that I'm ranking for on my blog, those are the strongest ones. But this even shows you the position you're in, right? And, how many the volume of searches that are happening for that each month, and then really kind of the percentage of traffic that's coming to your website based on people doing that search and coming over. There are a couple here too. What does the word of life mean? Justice, short story ideas. These are things. Look at that. Ranking number 1. Not quite as high volume, but I'm ranking number 1 on those. So we're actually going to kind of take a look at that for a second too. But this is kind of cool because you can see on this chart. This is one of the things too, though, over time, I like to see this stuff change. Right now, positions 1 through 3, which is usually the goal that I like to try to go with. I have 17 total terms that I'm ranking, 1, 2, or 3 on in the search engines. I've got 45 others that are happening, positions 4 through 10. That's the rest of page 1. And then, page 2, I've got 71 terms, page 3, 89, 99 on page 4, and so on down the line. Typically, when I look at the stuff over time, I like to see the stuff, all those numbers increasing, right? But I like to see the stuff moving forward where the bigger peaks start to happen closer here to the front, okay? And when we really dig in the data and stuff too, there are things that I'll look at and say, anything that's ranking position 4 through 30, right? So, outside of that 1 through 3 goal, on the first page, on the second page, and third page, we're going to take a look at this in a second, right? Where you can find that information. But that's my low-hanging fruit. That's the stuff that I like to say, what am I ranking on page 2 for right now? That if I did some cleanup and did some optimization there and did a little bit of work on that stuff, that I might be able to get pushed up onto page 1. Even on page 1, what can I do to get those things pushed up a little bit more so that they're ranking in the top 3? So this is really, really important data because it's going to kind of show you some trends. And I can tell you that for 3 of those 5 to really not be about what my blog is about, I'm actually kind of disappointed. I've got some work to do here on my personal blog. So let's take a look real quick too. And the big place that you go to kind of dig into some of this data a little bit more is a place called Google Search Console. Okay, Google Search Console it's a Google-owned tool that you have to have a little bit of code on your website and stuff, and I can make sure we drop some links and stuff like that or whatever too, as well as far as how to set it up, or you can even Google how to set up Google Search Console and stuff too. But basically, you kind of create your account here. It'll give you a little bit of line of code or something like that you need. Drop that on your website. It stays on your website, so it kind of stays connected. So it really just kind of tracks, right? But this is kind of Google's tracking for data about your website and how it's performing in search. Right? I like to go to this performance area because there's some really neat information in here that can kind of give you some good clues as to how things are performing. You get here, it's going to show you a chart. It's going to say you're getting, hey, this many total clicks, this many total impressions. Right now, I've got this set for web traffic over the last 3 months. You see the average click-through rate and average position. And I'm going to highlight those on the chart here too, not necessarily because I want them on the charts, but because I want the columns down here below that. So check this out, because this is pretty cool, right? And right now, this chart, let me open that up a little bit and get us some more results. Give me 50 results here. Right now, you see I got a lot of clicks. It's ordering by how many clicks are coming through to my site. I get 146 clicks over that time period for a Crystal Blue Persuasion meeting. Remember, we saw that in the audit. It's a good high volume search. I'm actually ranking on average around position 7 on the first page, but it gets a lot of impressions. I get a click-through rate, and I get that many clicks per month, right? So those numbers are really important. But a couple of ways I like to look at this data, right, is what are the things? Let me sort this by position. Okay, reverse that. And you can see, remember I had a few terms that I was position 1 through 3, right? What does Word of Life mean? I'm Selfish Images, Gospel Infographic, Jen Hatmaker, 7 Foods, did a blog post and an interview with her on that stuff too. These are all terms that I'm ranking pretty well for, right? So you can see where those go. Let me jump down a little bit because I talked about how important it is. Then once I get outside of position 2, right, start getting into position 3, Bar Youssef, right, position 3. Actually, I want to get past 3. I want to get down to position 4. Let me open this up a little bit more so you get 100 of them, right? Get down to position 4. Position 4, Jesus calls for fishermen summary, right? 1 John 1:4 commentary. These are things where, I get some searches, position 4 and stuff too, and if I can increase my position, I know the higher position I get on page 1, the better traffic I'm going to get. So what I look for, really, the big thing here is where are the opportunities where maybe I'm on position 1, here's one, Bible Dude, position 5, 119 searches per month, right? And I'm position 5. Let's see, I'm at 185 searches per month. I'm at position 5.7, so 5, 6 on average. for Light Giver. I could find some opportunities here for, uh, you know, melanoma versus metanonia, some Greek words, right? I'm in position 6, right? 120 searches per month. And so I'm getting 6.7% of the clicks, right? If I increase that, I can drive a lot more clicks, a lot more traffic to my site. That's a blog post that I did on some kind of keyword studies, about salvation and stuff. Um, so you can see where I've got some opportunity here, and looking at this data, looking at for stuff that's ranked positions 4 through 30, especially the ones where you get some traffic. I can identify and point to and say that is a blog post that I have. What can I do with that blog post now to try to improve my chances, my opportunities and stuff? It may be an old blog post, right? But if I can improve it in some way that's going to get my chances to go up a little bit better, then I'm going to kind of take a look at that, right? Um, so, so you see some really cool data in there and stuff in Google Search Console to kind of indicate how you're doing. Another way to look at this too is look at what's going by click rate, right? What stuff is getting the highest click rates? That means it's actually resonating well with people and stuff. Maybe look at stuff that's, this one's getting 58 searches. I'm in position 1.8. Shadowfoot meeting. It's a song. Wrote a blog post about the song and the meaning of the song and stuff. So that's actually ranking pretty well and getting a good strong click-through percentage with a little bit of traffic and stuff too. Those are things that I might actually be able to model a little bit to try to get better. So a few ways you can kind of play with that data. Definitely want to look at impressions, which ones are getting the most searches, and then where am I ranking. That's a big one too. So play with those and look at how you're ranking by position. How many are getting the most searches. And if you're getting a lot of searches, but you're in that kind of 4 through 30 range, those are posts that you can kind of go back to and say, where can I do some cleanup and stuff to try to improve my chances of getting more traffic from that content, right? So it's a big deal there. So let's take a look at this. So one of the terms that we saw that I'm ranking here for too is justice short story ideas. I wrote a blog post a while back where we're actually having some people guest post about short stories about justice, right? So we wrote a blog post about how to write a story about this. So let me take that keyword, that justice short story ideas, and we do that search, right? So you can see when I do that search, justice short story ideas, I'm ranked number 1, right? Even before the people also ask stuff, right? And a few other posts down about that, how to write a short story on justice, okay? So one of the things that when I look at this kind of content stuff too, I see, look at this meta description here, right? This meta description, right? And that's when we're looking at, how a post is set up. That is really probably, it looks like a clump of just some of the text, maybe like a bullet list or whatever too, that's coming from the blog post itself, right? So I could probably be a little bit more descriptive there too. That'll probably increase my chances of getting the right people to click over on this post and stuff too. But I'm ranking pretty well, right? But really what I want to try to do is, how do I make sure I capture that, right? The first thing is going to be is that meta description is going to be the most important piece of content that I have on that blog post right now. It's ranking well just based on what it is, but it's not descriptive. I'm not going to get as much of the traffic that I want, right? So then let me take a look at that post, okay? And what I'll say is, one of the things I've done with my blog is I've kind of changed the formatting for how my content shows up, right? So a blog post format looks a little bit different now than it did before. I'm not using the sidebar as much, I'm trying to feature the content really middle of the page. This layout, has the featured image is now kind of like a top header piece for the content with the title kind of breaking into that a little bit too. But then as I scroll down, what do you see? I see a really poorly formatted thing too. I've got kind of that light gray sidebar with no content in it, right? Kind of dripping down the side and kind of bleeding through the middle of the text. What I have is the featured image up top is also kind of in the post, in the middle there and stuff too, and not even really kind of fully aligned and stuff, and then kind of scrolling on down, and I get down to the related posts and ads and subscribe and all that stuff too. And the bottom looks okay too, but even that sidebar line starts to kind of cut through, my little subscribe block, cut through the common field stuff too. So basically, there's a setting I can tell you real quick without getting too technical that I can kind of turn off the sidebar in the post, right? So open that up to full width. I'll probably take that image out of here since the featured image is it's already kind of up top in there. I don't need it in the content there anymore and stuff, So there's some things I can do to really kind of clean up this post and make it land better. So you can tell right away when it comes to trying to improve my blog and improve the visitor's experience, right, as they're coming through search. I can tweak the meta description. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. I can tweak the meta description, but I can also clean up the blog post formatting a little bit too as well, so that it just looks nicer when they come here. All right. So some big things that I can do based off of the information that I'm finding in my audit. Right. So this is not a bad one for me to be ranking for. Right. But I can drive more traffic. I can get more traffic and get more people over there, and I can improve the experience. I'm going to want them to kind of visit around more pages once they get there and stuff too. So I want them to that first impression to be really strong. So clean up the page formatting, clean up the meta description in the post. And I'm going to improve my opportunities and stuff too. So that's where I start using this kind of data. And even this kind of data, right? If I know some of these things are related to blog posts and stuff, I'm going to go visit those blog posts. I'm going to visit them on search, see how they show up. I'm going to visit the blog post. Is there any other kind of tweaks and stuff too that I need to do to improve that? Okay. So continue to scroll on down through my audit. Let's see. And I do have a couple tips here. Pro tip number 1, page optimization. Find your top performing pages in Google Search Console and optimize them to help you capture more of the traffic coming to them. Email subscribe capture, right? We see how in the data email subscription is really, really big deal, and how much the high earning bloggers really kind of count on email subscription stuff too. So make sure that's a big deal. Click through to related content, right? Are there places where you can improve? Hey, by the way, here's another post you might be interested, or something like that, right? Look at ways that you can decrease your bounce rate, which is that when people hit one blog post and they leave right away, you want them to continue to engage. At that first blog post, make a really strong, good impression. And then are there ways you can feature other content to, encourage them to get through to more stuff too? And also take a look at product and affiliate sales opportunities, right? So when I look at this blog post, I'm not really featuring anything. Is there a way that maybe there's a good book about short stories on justice? Maybe my book, right? Something that deals with justice issues and stuff that I can feature on the page. Are there affiliate links I can put on here? Are there products I can feature in here and stuff too that will be related, right, to the content? It might give me a good chance of actually selling some stuff. But yeah, that'll be a big deal, right? So look for opportunities to improve that by adding monetization pieces in there as well. Okay, so cool tip for you there. All right, so let's jump back to the report. You can see some of the competitive analysis and stuff too. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you can see this is going to give you a listing of some of the websites that the search data is telling me that I'm most similar to, right? If you get a list of websites in here too that really you feel like have nothing to do with it, it's because the search data is kind of picking that up and matching that up and saying, you look similar to this, right? So if you look similar to something that you don't think you should be looking similar to, then you probably need to be doing some tweaks on your blogs and stuff too. And we can explore those sites. Maybe there's some that are similar. Explore those sites and see what they're doing to draw the traffic that they're drawing, right? So great way to look at the competitors there. Backlinks. Okay. The next big thing in the website audit here is backlinks, right? Backlinks are any links from any other website that are pointing back to yours. And really, one of the biggest, most important things that I see with backlinks is that they look natural and that they're balanced, okay? So I like to see a little more balance here between the different types of links, right? So for example, links coming from ads and from Twitter, stuff like that too, maybe no follow links. Follow links, is just kind of a technical structure and how links are set up. So if you get a link on somebody else's website, it may be tagged as telling Google, go ahead and follow this link, so that it really kind of indexes the other stuff. Really both are important, right? We need all kinds of different types of links. Even aside from follow links and no follow links, links that are coming from text, that are images linked, frames, all kinds of stuff, right? The domain names that they come from, right? You don't want to have a gazillion links from one domain. It's good to have them spread out among several different websites and stuff. The pages you're pointing to, what we refer to as the anchor text, right? Back here, you see some are empty anchor. You see some where there's a full line of text, Bible Do Life, my name, engaged in culture, right? All these different terms, are linked back to certain pages on my website, right? So we like to see a variety. So it's not always, this would be really bad if it was just my name or just Bible Dude or something like that too, had all of the links all pointing using just that name. That looks unnatural, right? So you want to see a variety and stuff. Say, even generic terms like click through to this site, read my post about justice, those kinds of things, varying up the anchor text, which is the text that is actually linked on somebody else's website that's pointing back to your website, right? So the big thing with backlinks is not only that you have some volume of them, that you're getting them regularly, but also that there's a variety, right? Variety is really important when it comes to backlinks. That brings me to my next pro tip. All right, take that information, work on building a strong link profile, right? You want to build great links, like I mentioned, with variety on and off your site. Linking to other content on your own website is actually very important as well too. Just as important as getting links from off of your website pointing to your website. So really, one rule of thumb that I like to do, any new blog post that I publish, I like to make sure that I have 2 internal links and 2 external links on every blog post, right? So I write a blog, I publish a blog on my own blog. I want to link to another page, another blog post that I may have written a while ago or something like that too. Make sure that I'm linking to 2 different things on that blog post that are inside my own blog. But I also want to link to 2 things external as well, because those external links also help Google kind of figure out what your content is really about, okay? So it's not even so much about trying to link to something else. Sometimes if I'm looking for something, I'll just link to Wikipedia because I'm talking about, I don't know, World War II, so I link to the World War II page on Wikipedia or something like that. It really helps Google kind of figure out the content and what's important and stuff too. But I usually do that around the core themes of the post that I'm in. So don't just add them arbitrarily and stuff. Do them so that they're actually kind of help kind of create a better index and idea of what that content is about. Another big thing to help build your a strong link profile is add new and relevant links to old blog posts, right? So for example, when I go back to this blog post, I may want to find some places where I can link to and say, hey, since this post a while back, I wrote something else let me build a link to that newer blog post. And I can update my old blog post with links to newer blog posts and newer content stuff. Again, which really helps tell Google what the content is all about. Okay. Um, Leverage social media links, right? So build links on Twitter. Twitter is really important, right? Especially Google's even starting to index tweets, right? So if you have links to content that is in tweets, and vary up your tweets as well too. So it's not just the blog post title and the link. Ask questions. Put on in other relevant text content in there that helps Google kind of even look at that and say, oh, okay, well, here's a question about so and so, and there's a link to it. So let me kind of check that out stuff, to make sure that's pointing and giving the right kind of value and stuff too. But leverage social media platforms, and when I say social media platforms, I'm even talking about things like Reddit, Medium, other places like that too, where you can kind of add content and use those to help kind of build links back to core content on your website. And then find link opportunities on other websites. One of the best ways to do that is to do guest posting, right? I like to do a guest post. And when I do a guest post on another website, I actually just did one at a place called Rise Up Writers not too long ago, where I was talking about search engine optimization strategy. I made sure I found opportunities in there to follow that number one rule, to link to two other pieces of content in their website, right? So I'm building internal links from my guest blog post on that side too. But some of the external links that I pointed out, I point out and say, oh, well, here's some more information about this idea here too, and use my website as the point of reference for it as well too. So it's a great way to create some of those backlinks as well that really help kind of build you the strong link profile. So take that. Pro tip number 2: build a really strong profile. All your new blog posts should be a certain way. Create new links on old blog posts, leverage social media, and find those link opportunities on other websites. Cool. All right. So get into some of the last things here too, and this is the big one, right? This is that last but not least piece that's in a good website audit. And this is the technical audit. And again, like I said, this is my own blog, right? I like to see this number for the total score up over 90%. So I'm not too far off, but I'm definitely not in the range where I feel like, I'm in the sweet spot from a technical perspective on the website. This is a cool report too, because it tells us exactly what the errors are. Errors are the big problems, like those things need to get fixed. Warnings are not quite as bad. And I find that a lot of times, even if you've got a big number there, those can kind of happen in clumps and stuff too. We'll see that here in just a second too. And notices are, most of the time I'm not even really concerned about notices, but they are things that you want to kind of take a look at. And if there's something you can do about them, then that's a good thing too. But really, primarily look at errors. Definitely kind of take a little bit of a look at warnings and stuff too. This even points out some of the top issues and stuff too. And again, this might get a little bit technical stuff too, but you see things like a no redirect or canonical to HTTPS homepage from HTTP version, right? So these are things, some of them are pretty simple fixes that we can do like in the code on the back end to make sure that the right redirect is in there. Simple fixes, 2 pages couldn't be crawled. We could look at reasons for those. I see 14 pages, and this is when I scan it scans like 100 pages, right? So it may not even, if I have 200 blog posts, I'm only going to get 100 pages at first, but it's going to give me a good idea of the data. Out of those 100, I got 14 pages don't even have a meta description, right? So you remember when I looked at my how to write a short story on justice. That may be one. It may just be pulling in some basic default text or something like that too. Maybe I need to work on my meta descriptions there. So anyway, this will show a lot of information. But I'm going to dip down here because this is just showing the pages that were scanned and how many have the errors and stuff too. But it shows me that 2 pages can be crawled, no redirect. We talked about that. Let me take a look at. I'm going to jump down to some of the warnings here. You got some pages that have a low text to HTML ratio. Maybe I'm putting too much HTML code in the pages, in the post stuff, right? That can be a bad thing, can slow it down. 16 pages don't have an H1 heading, right? A blog post, typically the blog post title is going to by default be an H1 heading. So they might be looking at some other pages. If I have other pages that don't have an H1 heading on it, I need to go back and actually fix those, make sure I have the right heading usage and stuff. 14 pages don't have meta descriptions, right? And here's the thing, it's not necessarily inherently built in. Because it would make this report, a gazillion page report. But if you get an audit like this from us, I can give you those details and say, okay, what are those 14 pages that don't have meta description? I mean, maybe I want to go take a look at those. I see some things, XML sitemap issues. Let's see. A lot of times this is in the warnings where I see a lot of those JavaScript errors and stuff too. So this will kind of tell us where we need to go. So if I have 16 pages, I can give you that detailed report and say, okay, here's the 16 pages that came up. Here's the 14 pages that don't have meta descriptions. Go back and clean those up. That's going to improve your chances with the search engines and stuff too. So these are all technical issues that have the potential to hold me back, especially the errors. But really, any of those errors and warnings and stuff can hold me back and keep me from performing as strongly as I can on search engines. But you see where a lot of those tend to trend and stuff too. I'm going to take a look real quick too, because there are some things, like I said, a lot of plugins can help deal with a lot of these technical issues pretty easily. For example, a lot of good caching plugins. One of them that I like is a WP Rocket. It's a premium plugin, but it's definitely a good one. I use this one here on my site. But things like file optimization, right? Minify CSS files, Minify combined JavaScript files. Those are the kinds of things and stuff too that can really help kind of optimize the code. What happens is a lot of these things, the CSS and the JavaScripts and stuff too, may be basically set up in your site, in your theme or whatever too, that they load early on. So if the page as it's loading has to read through all this code first before it starts loading the page, what we can do is we can kind of combine some of that stuff, make it smaller and easier to read, and say move that down to the end, right? So that's kind of what these things do. They help kind of clean up and tighten up some of that code, which takes care of a lot of different errors and stuff, right? Let me take a look. I'm going to take a look at a post here, right? Because we talk about that meta description and stuff and how important that is, right? So if you're using a Yoast SEO, which is I think by far one of the most popular ones, but there are several others out there that do a really great job with this stuff, right? You want to make sure that you click on that edit snippet, right? Make sure your title there is what you need it to be. But you can play with that meta description, right? And give it a good description. And remember, this piece right here, that is going to be what shows up in the search results right here. So when you're working on that, okay, really what you're looking for here is almost your sales pitch for click on me. You want to read this post because this is what it's going to do for you. Okay, so think about your meta description as that kind of thing too. It's good to have your kind of keyword phrase in here too, right? So attachment disorder is mine, and that's in the meta description, right? But beyond that, use that to be descriptive. Don't necessarily just copy paste content from in your blog post or something like that too, but be descriptive of what somebody can expect to come find you. So you want that to be SEO optimized for your keyword terms, but you also want it to be search engine optimized for what's going to tell people to come over and click on. This is why you need to come read this post. Okay, so use that, and those are some of the things, right? When you're doing that kind of stuff, make sure your meta snippet information, your metadata there is all good. It's tagged for a good keyword that's descriptive of the content and all that. That's going to help you out a lot with that blog post, right? So let's see with that. I'll take a look at, got one more pro tip here for you. And that is pro tip number 3, clean up your site. the biggest, most common issues are typically resolved with good SEO and caching plugins. Like I just showed you, Yoast by SEO. Really, a lot of the caching plugins I just showed you. One of the things I look at, within WP Rocket cache settings and stuff. That'll take care of a lot of the technical issues on your site. But take care of that technical structure with plugins, and then prioritize on-page cleanup based on priorities, right? So one of the things I like to do when I look at my site is where are my biggest opportunities? If I have terms that I'm ranking, say, in that 4 through 30 range, and they get really high search volume, right? I'm going to go back. I'm going to spend some time working on that blog post, right? So I might make myself a hit list of 5 or 10 blog posts where my biggest opportunities reside, and I find that stuff through that data, telling me, hey, here's stuff, high volume, not great search results and stuff too. Can I clean up that post somehow to make sure we're set up technically well for that? And then use that clean structure with all new content going forward, right? Make sure you've always, every new blog post you're doing, make sure you got a strong meta description. Make sure you're doing that linking, 2 internal links, 2 external links on every blog post and stuff, right? Do that kind of stuff and make sure every new piece of content you have going forward is already set up like that, using some of those best practices, and those posts too will start to get some momentum and stuff like that as well too. So yeah, and actually, if there's a new blog post, if that reminds you of an old one that you did, maybe you go back to that old blog post and find a way to link to your brand new blog post from that old blog post too. That's creating a backlink profile pointing to your new post. So do that kind of stuff too, but definitely use good clean structure going forward with any of that stuff moving forward. That's big tip number 3, right? So with a lot of that, one thing I want to point out really quick too is when it comes to hosting, right? If you're familiar with us, we do the website hosting. We specialize in that managed WordPress hosting. And a lot of our clients really enjoy what we call our basic hosting plan, where we take over kind of the technical backend stuff. If you need a caching plugin installed, we'll do that for you. If you need the SEO plugin installed, we'll do that for you. Having us go through and update all your meta descriptions is another story. But we can certainly help with some of that, the plugins installation, things like that stuff too. But we keep all that stuff updated, keep database optimized and stuff too within the basic hosting. We have another plan. It's a little bit newer, and we've got several folks on it who seem to really love it. It's called our Basic Plus. One of the big things with Basic Plus is one that is also going to include in the cost the SSL certificate, which again is becoming increasingly important when it comes to search engine optimization. So you don't have to pay extra for an SSL certificate on that plan, but also get some extra tools. Some premium tools from an organization called WPMU Dev. If you get your own membership there, you're probably paying, I think, about $50 a month or something like that for it too. But with our Basic Plus plan, we actually include all of those tools into it stuff too. So there's some cool premium plugins for SEO, for security, for the caching, for image optimization, a lot of stuff too that can really kind of amp up the performance level of your website quite a bit. But one of the cool things too, and the reason I mention this is that we can also set up with it comes from the WPMU Dev, is a reporting tool too. So that, like once a month, for example, you can get a personalized like SEO checkup scan audit run on your website and emailed to you automatically once every month, right? And this will kind of give you some of that detail too, saying, looking for those H1, we didn't detect them, the image alts, right? There's a lot of places where it's going to say, we were looking for this and on these pages, we were looking for anchor tags on these pages and couldn't find them. So it'll even tell you where some of the things are that you need to continue to work on an ongoing basis. So it's a really great, cool check for exploring the kinds of things that you need to do on an ongoing basis to keep your website performing top notch, especially from an SEO perspective. So it's kind of like getting a little mini audit here every month where you're getting some extra data and stuff too to kind of tell you there's some things you need to work on. So definitely consider something like a Basic Plus hosting, because the extra tools that you'll get that will help amp up your performance, and the extra ongoing data and the SSL stuff like that too, definitely worth the little bit of extra cost and stuff. One other thing too I want to point out before we wrap this up is thinking about ongoing, right? Is looking at how your website is performing over time. Okay, so one thing I want to say is, like, here, this is just over the last 30 days, kind of, some ups and downs and stuff too, but pretty flat. You don't see a huge increase, over time over the last 30 days or anything. But one little note here too, in your Google Analytics, you have a Google Analytics set up in your website. If you're one of our Basic or Basic Plus hosting clients and stuff too, and you don't have that, we can certainly help set that up. It's kind of knowing when certain things happen, right? So if you get an audit like this and you go through and you scrub some things up and take care of technical factors and optimize some existing posts and all that stuff too, it's a good idea to help kind of track that stuff too. And one little thing here in Google Analytics that I want to show you is creating an annotation, okay? So right below this graph, when I come into audience overview and get some of those basic stats, I click on a little bar, kind of pops the thing down here too. I can come over here and click on create new annotation. And what this will do is I can give the date and I can say, hey, today I updated SEO technical structure. Okay. And then I say that. And basically what it'll do is put a little marker now on my map, right, on my analytics and stuff too, so that when I look back over time, I can see, oh, this is when an increase started happening, right? And this is the thing that happened. This is what I did on that date. In fact, if you wanted to, when you look at your audit, and when you see this and you see, oh, there's a big change in how things started performing when this algorithm happened, you can add markers for those things too. Say, hey, this is something that happened. I'm going to add that in my Google Analytics because that's a factor in how things change and stuff too. So you can always look back then into your Google Analytics over time. You can see these are how things impacted that traffic on my website when it started coming up. So I know I did the right things, or you did something that maybe traffic dipped. You did the wrong thing. Go back and undo that. So whatever it is, definitely use your Google Analytics going on forward. If you know me, I'm a big fan of using your Google Analytics, tracking that stuff over time. But definitely add annotations for the big events when you're working on your website. If you redesign the whole website, add an annotation, right? Because then you'll know from that point forward how even the website redesign impacted traffic for you and stuff too. So another little extra bonus tip. Okay, so with that, and this is what I'm wrapping up with here too, is this website audit looks great. What do I do? How do I get this? How do I get this information, right? And this detailed blog SEO audit is actually a new product that we have that we're launching right now. And right now for it's the introductory price, you can get it for $39. So not really super expensive, a really great investment to help you understand how you can drive a lot more traffic and stuff too, especially if you're implementing more of a monetization strategy and stuff too. Having this information, implementing the things that it'll show you and stuff too is something that will pay for itself eventually within your monetization efforts and stuff too. But we got this detailed SEO blog SEO audit. If you're on the Fistbump Media website, go under websites, blog SEO audit. We'll get you here, and we'll link to it on the webinar page here and stuff too as well. It kind of shows you a few sample pages, stuff, the same stuff that I showed you here in this webinar. It's a great testimonial from somebody who gets some SEO audit data from us on a regular basis, to a blogger that we know, and we love her a lot, but she says, wow, so helpful. She's excited to have specifics to work on and see percentages of stuff going up and seeing the impact it has on the site. Really big thing is order your audit, review your results, and then also too, when it comes to making updates and understanding the data, in your result, we will do a free consult with you. It's, just come down here and book a call with us, right? And it's the call is not necessarily part of the audit, but you can get the audit, you can take it, run with it on your own. Maybe between that and this webinar, you have all the information you need to implement what you want. But if you have questions, if you need to understand the data better, you want to kind of get some help figuring out what the plan should be for what you should be doing. Definitely feel free to book a call with us, and we'll just do that for free. And we'll talk through that stuff with you. If there's anything we need to help you with, we're happy to help with that. Or if we can just kind of point you in the right direction and get you going, happy to do that too. So with that, really, the audit is a great deal, great product here. I hope you take advantage of it, because I know I see it over and over and over again. When you do those things that the data shows you to do, you're going to see some impact and stuff too. So hopefully this shows you not only how to get that data, but then how you can leverage that data and understand that a little bit better to make sure you've got a good action plan for your blog moving forward. And so with that, I just want to say thank you. It's always a pleasure doing these for you guys and stuff, helping you understand how you're going to kind of increase your traffic, your blog, your audience, your readership and stuff too, and really kind of reach the levels of success that you probably hoped and dreamed about when you first started doing your blogging and stuff too. So with that, have a rock star day, and don't hesitate to reach out and let us know if you have any questions. And the big fist bump for you coming at you. Bye.